Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. I'm James Jones and I'm joined today by Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Good evening.
And no one else, because the Iron Man himself has rusted away yet again. John is not here. We do not know if this is a full-time for this episode not here, or if this is a consequence of some kind of delay that he is presently experiencing, or if he just simply isn't going to be here today. We'll find out together. You'll find out as we find out. But as of right now, we're starting an hour late, and he is not present. So today is September 5th, 2024. This is our first episode of September 24. Hey, that's pretty cool. Next few weeks, you're going to hear some people in and out. I'm not going to announce all that ahead of time, but we're experiencing it right now. We've got stuff going on this month, so you're gonna have some episodes where we might have guests. We might be down to 3 people, such as this. We'll figure it out as we go, but I don't think we're gonna miss any episodes, but you will hear people, like, I'll be out for 2 weeks. People will be missing, so we'll get used to it together. But this is episode 891. I do want to say, for my own personal benefit, when I said that Disembodied Voices Should Stick Together would be a good title, but also an impossible image to make, I fucking did it, and I got a Xenoblade X joke in there. I am absolutely on board with this. I nailed it. I think this is actually some of my highest accomplishment, in that it took me about 2 minutes to make, which is really what the entire intention was. So, I did it. This guy did it. But we're going to start the episode off with listener mail, because we actually got a lot of listener mail the last couple weeks. But with the Indie World / partner showcase last week, we didn't really spend a lot of time on email, and email's been taking us a while to get through lately. I say lately, I mean the last 10 years. But we're going to try to get through some to front load the show, and then we'll get to new business afterwards once we know how much time we've got left. Let me look at the emails. I will read the first email. This is the GX one. That's the game show. GX sent us a game. Dear RFN crew, James demanded an email game, and a game I have provided. He has long expressed his negative relationship with mobile sim churning outlet Kairosoft, who currently have 56 games on the Nintendo eShop, most of which are ports of mobile sims they've been making since 2005. But of that massive list of games, which ones are the most popular? I found Steam charts data on 42 Kairosoft games, pretended that the data was somehow insightful, and produced a quick quiz on which Kairon games represent the upper half of the publisher's output. GX has sent us a very professional-looking Google Sheets spreadsheet with multiple questions on it. And so I'm going to let him conduct this game, and we will answer his questions, and then we'll find out if we were correct.
Should I open the file or no?
I'll read it to y'all.
Okay.
Of the 42 Kairosoft games Steam Charts has data on, the median all-time peak concurrence is 134.5 players. So what GX is saying is on Steam, the average of all of the 42 games Kairosoft has, one of the things that gets tracked is the peak concurrence. That is games that had the most, like the most at any moment, or the most at any given time.
The most people playing at one time, at one given time.
Ever.
Yeah.
So most of these games probably set it pretty soon after their release, and that is it. So the average, the median of them, to be specific, what kind of average, is 134.5 players, which is pretty fucking low. I've selected 10 games from the full list. For each of these games, is it in the top half all-time Kairosoft peak concurrence or not? I assume you'll want to go line by line, so the answers are next to each line. Like I said, this is very professional looking. So basically, we're playing higher or lower with their median peak concurrence of 134.5. I am not going to look up anything about these games beyond their name, because there's nothing creative about Kairosoft products. And so the name will tell you exactly what it is. And since all of the games are the same, it is largely immaterial.
So did he choose 5 higher and 5 lower than the median then?
He doesn't say.
Oh, okay. So they could all be lower.
They could all be lower.
Okay.
They could all be higher.
Oh.
I mean, so exactly half of the things will be higher and lower because he picked the median. But
right.
Game number 1, home run high. I assume this is baseball meet school.
Well, the 2 things that the Japanese love. I'm going to go
baseball
higher.
School. All right, Greg?
It's got high in the name. I mean, that is about the level that I can operate on. To say this is out of context for me is an understatement.
That's fair. Okay, well, the good news is there is no context. These things are...
I may not be as much of a disadvantage as I may be imagining, but still, I'm literally just, it's as facile as it gets. It's got high in the title. Surely it must be in the higher end.
All right, before I answer it, before I'm going to go lower, but before I reveal it, do we want to... So there's multiple questions where we do matching. Do we just want to say it's 1 point for everything you get right, or do we want to say like the most per the question? I feel like scoring just do 1 point per question per ask.
You're the kind of the game master in this scenario, right. So I leave it to your discretion.
I'll do a 1 point. All right, here we go. The answer is higher. Its peak was 229.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, so Greg and Guillaume each get a point.
Mm-hmm.
The next, the sushi spinnery. The sushi spinnery, as in a place that spins. I'm pretty sure a spinnery is actually like a yarn term, so I'm not sure what the fuck they're on. I'm gonna go lower.
Yeah.
I just feel it in my bones.
I don't know. I'm having trouble picturing this. I'm going to go with higher again, even though I'm not really feeling it. I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to go higher.
Are you really going to regret this?
Again,
yeah, forever.
I mean, on your deathbed, it's going to be it's in the top 3, probably. I'm going to go lower strictly because I feel like that is a bit of a reach on alliteration for the name, frankly. Yeah. It's just, they've gone alliterative, but in a way that just doesn't really hit, so lower.
No, I assume this is like one of those conveyor belt sushi places, and that's what they're going for.
Also, I wish I had a better idea of what how many Japanese PC players play on Steam. Like, if this is just like mostly like Western world centric,
it's true. There's been more acknowledgement of Steam in Japan, like in recent years. It feels like but it's been slow relatively to sort of compared with other markets for Japanese publishers and everything to really feel like they're kind of giving it anywhere close to the same kind of recognition.
All right, so to reiterate, Guillaume higher, Greg and myself lower, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is higher, 225.
Nice.
No.
So already not detecting a lot of standard deviation here between the actual, leading me to assume malfeasance, but we'll get there. The next game, Station Manager, not the Station Manager, just Station Manager.
Like a train station?
I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Because if it's just like a workstation manager, it's like, wow. One of them sounds more boring.
It could be like the least sexy way of talking about like espionage. Because, somebody be a station manager like for the CIA or something, out in sort of hostile territory somewhere back in the Cold War or something, but it's like, how can we take that concept and make it sound as uninteresting as possible?
Oh, I mean, that would do it. All right, I'm going to go lower.
Yeah, I'm going to go lower on this one. Even though trains
it can't even have alliteration or anything, I mean, it's just
the title is very boring.
God, that is the most dour, dull title imaginable. So I mean, I feel like they don't deserve to be on the coveted top half of the concurrent player chart. So lower.
All right, that one is in fact lower, 103, which is very poor. I was starting to wonder if GX had done something very, very sneaky and just only picked hires.
Yeah, because as you said, with the median overall, it must be an even split. But of the ones that were chosen, it could be from the top 10 or something. But theoretically,
sampling bias is real.
Would have been a bit of a troll. Admittedly, I don't want to accuse GX of doing something like that.
What would have been really funny would be to do 9 hires in a row and then do a lower,
but not unthinkable either. I guess is what you're saying.
No. Well, this is very serious work we're doing here. The Manga Works.
Oh, higher. I think there's a substantial number of weeaboos who would love to play that.
I'm going to hold to my lower because the mangaka basically all sacrificed their lives and their body for this godforsaken work, working 17 hours a day and ruining their backs and quitting before they finish their masterpiece of a series because they physically can no longer produce it.
That's why you play this game, so you don't have to.
It's just total guess higher on this one.
All right. Holy shit. All right. Is higher.
Yeah.
But again, 231. So it's 229, 225, 231. This feels rigged.
It's just the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. I mean, it's the same game. Why wouldn't it be the same game?
Yeah, it's just that it's the very specific sort of cadre of people.
But this one has a new hat.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So the next one I'm very torn. Hot Springs Story 2. Now.
Ooh, the sequel.
So before anybody goes like, this is going to be for sexy times, right? No. The Kairosoft
I would say, is it just going to be like Japanese macaques chilling out?
Ooh.
I wish. That'd actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
They have a very pixelated art style that is not appealing visually in any way, shape, or form, so there's no sexy times to be had with this one. So I'm just going to stick to my guns and say lower. Because I refuse to believe that at any point 130-something people played this game and had fun.
In Yakuza 0, which I'm playing right now, there's like the pervert NPC who at some point tells you that he can just like, his powers are such that he can just picture any woman without her clothes on. So I can only imagine that there are perverts out there playing Kairosoft games who could picture these pixels as like super hot.
But there's so many other options on Steam if that's all you're here for.
Still, I'm going to go with higher since it's a sequel too. It seems like, wow, they were...
Well, hold on. It says 2. That doesn't guarantee there was ever a 1.
That is a lesson we've learned with some of these eShop bizarre scenarios. But I mean, I think Guillaume's logic is pretty solid. I think if he hadn't already said it, I might have just gone with that. But I'm going to say that actually, and there's no evidence to support this contention whatsoever, that in fact the audience is quite discriminating. And they played the first one, and it's rubbish, and so they won't play the second one, and therefore it's lower. That's what I'm going with.
So, Greg and I are right.
Oh.
93. Again, 103 and 93 on the lowers. They're not beating the allegations here of malfeasance. I'm just going to put it out there. Edo Towns. I don't even know what the fuck that... I mean, Edo was Tokyo. Lower. Fuck it. This title sucks. This is a shitty title.
Okay, Edo Towns?
Edo Towns. 2 words.
I'll go with lower.
Yeah, it's so uninspired, I think. I can't bring myself to go higher, so it has to be lower.
Holy fuck. No. Concurrent peak 34.
Well, there you go. You wanted some spread on
I got some spread.
You got it.
Oh, something got spread. Jesus Christ. All right. The Ramen Sensei. Fuck it. Lower.
That sounds exciting. People love ramen. They love martial arts, like the sensei. I don't know. I know that sensei is not just a martial arts thing. I don't know.
Teacher.
Whatever. Yeah, but
yeah, I guess the question is this someone who is sort of wise about ramen? Or are they someone who is wise in general that is just characterized by their passion for ramen?
Is it ramen that happens to be wise?
Yeah, also plausible. So I think given the sort of cornucopia of excited scenarios that we've laid out just from the title, that is the kind of thing that entices at least a few hundred punters in, isn't it? So I'm going to have to go higher.
I want to say that we put more thought into this already than I guarantee you anyone at Kairosoft put into it. Also, the answer is lower at 95. We're back to the no spread.
We're back to that. Yeah, it seems if we hadn't had the Edo Towns thing, we would have said that's the floor. Like that is, there is at least a die-hard following of 90 people that will at least be playing this thing simultaneously, whatever they put out. But no. It turns out there is at least something lower than that.
Basketball club story. Basketball, as in the sport, invented by James Naismith. Club, as in an after-school activity of multiple people. And story, in story.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them game dev story, etc. Like that's part of their main series, I guess. And I know they're all the same game. I'm just saying it's titled like it's part of.
Yes.
Yeah. So, people like basketball. I think that you could have fooled 100 people, over 100 people to play it all at once on release day, maybe. So yeah, again, I'm weirdly optimistic about how these games did, but maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I've never played them. I don't know.
I haven't said higher yet. I don't plan to start now. Lower.
It's a relative measure, James. Something has to be higher, but yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, not that I would think of basketball as being as popular in Japan as baseball, but just the fact that baseball was in the higher category and other sports sort of thing. Well, I'll go higher as well.
337.
Ooh,
wow. Dominant.
Sports are a winning topic for Kairosoft.
Oh man, my lack of optimism, my world-renowned optimism is failing me today.
Well, I guess it's one of those things. I mean, if he was just, which this basically is, I mean, if you were just guessing coin flips, you just guess the same thing every time. You're pretty much locking in a 50% strike rate, aren't you?
So, but we don't know what GX did.
That's true. Again, we shouldn't assume too much, I guess. But there's some logic to just going the same way each time, is what I was, because if I was presented with, for some reason, Harvey Dent has insisted that I guess what his coin is going to come up many, many times. Maybe I would just guess tails every time or whatever, or bad head, whatever.
DC is really stupid, aren't they? Like, it's like, I just think about their villains and you're like, Harvey Dent's a major villain in there. What the fuck? Alright, Pocket Harvest lower. Hammering the lower. That sounds fucking boring as shit.
Pocket Harvest.
Pocket Harvest.
Just sounds like it's a game played like you rummage through whatever's in your pockets. And
it's just like, is there a penny in there? That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, if he's going if this is some sort of farming sim, theme thing,
I would assume so.
There's some upside there, I guess. So
yeah,
I'm going to go higher.
Was huge for some reason.
Yeah, I'll go higher.
Yeah.
Pocket, but the title. But yeah, the farming thing is popular. I will go with higher as well.
Lower, 62.
Ah, damn it.
62 as well. Listen, I mean, it's not as bad as Edo Towns, but still.
But it's not great. I'm mounting my comeback now.
I can only assume now that Kairosoft's audience is jocks.
Maybe so. Or people who wish they were jocks. All right, last one in this section. Jumbo Airport Story. Jumbo Airport Story. Not big airport story. Jumbo.
Well,
I guess it's a play on jumbo jets.
Yeah, it's more evocative than if it was just big or like mega or something like that. So I'll give it that.
It's a very small airport. But it gets a lot of jumbo jets for some reason.
Just a particular kind of plane.
This sounds awful. And but like my danger sense is going off. I'm going to swerve. I'm going to go up.
Yeah.
There's like a voice in the back of my head going, "You're going to see this one and get mad. Just go up."
It's not exciting to me. I'm going to go with lower.
I mean, this is total coin flip stuff with this. I'm going to go higher.
All right. Answer is reveal 529. Wow. Holy shit.
Nice.
A new ceiling.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's do a quick count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guillaume has 6 through the first question of many questions.
Oh, we're doing this for a while.
No. There's like 3 questions, but like this one just happened to have 10.
All right, 6 out of 10. I pass.
I also have 6, and Greg has 7.
Huh.
We are all above average. All right. Question number 2. From the same 42 games, Oh my God. All right. From the same 42 games, the median peak concurrent from the last 30 days, as of September 4, is 23 players. That's not ideal. I've selected another 10 games from the list. For each of these, is it the top half of recent peak concurrence or not? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if we had any idea of the order in which these games came out, that would be very helpful for this question.
Yeah, because is it how far away from launch is it in each case? But
I mean, they've put out 42 games. I'm going to assume they're all far away from launch. All right, we'll move these a little bit more briskly. Anime studio story. I'm going to go higher.
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 No, it's 15.
I think it's that the margins are going to be so small on this, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It's 23 is the median.
If it's on the lower end or the higher end, it's going to be decided by just a handful of people, essentially.
All right, magazine mogul. Like, that's got to be lower. Like, do kids even know what magazines are?
I don't know what moguls are, James. That's what's important.
It's true. You're right. You got me there. Lower. Bang the lower. All in on lower.
Lower. Right.
What's the title?
Magazine mogul.
Higher.
It's 3.
3.
3.
Wow.
Print really is dead. What can you say?
Yes. So lower. Substantially, horrifyingly lower. I really want one of these to be 0.
Is there another question where it's like, players of this game extant? Yes, no. Is that the last question that we get?
I really want one of these to just be 0. It would be very funny. All right, Ninja Village. I mean, I can at least visualize what that is. I'm going to say more than 23 people played this game at one time in the last 30 days.
I've been failing so far. I'm going to go with more, too.
I'm going to go higher, even though it's like blisteringly uninspired, if that's even possible. So,
60.
Yeah,
there we go.
There you go. Solid stuff.
I mean, we're all tied in this round. Everybody's got 2. So, poolside story, 3 words.
It's a story about the side of a pool.
Mm-hmm.
This might be more interesting. I'm going lower.
I went lower.
I'll go higher for the fun of it.
13. Not great.
So if it'd been poolside all one word, it would have been higher.
Yeah. Well, they could have saved some space too. Pocket stables. I assume these are stables for horses, but you never know. People like horses. I'm gonna go higher. Very scientific.
Yeah, higher for me. I've ever since I was a kid, I've been seeing the like screenshots of Japanese games about betting on horses, and so I gotta assume somewhere there's some overhang of that to at least crank it above 20 people or whatever.
23. I really want us to get to the end of the spreadsheet and GX just says I made up every single one of these games.
Yeah, well, it's just, I mean,
I'm going to go with lower just to, distinguish myself from the rest.
Jazz it up a bit.
No, that's fair. 28.
Oh.
Wow.
So that's a higher. I am uncomfortably in the lead in this segment. Baseball club story, not to be confused with basketball club story. Basketball club story, very successful.
Yeah,
but again, we don't know when this game came out.
Sure,
yeah, but I'm going to go with higher. People are always looking for a good baseball game.
You can't not go higher. But again, because I just earlier said, isn't it? With baseball, you think it has been probably if I'm assuming they've got a number of these, blank club stories with a particular sport, but baseball in Japan.
Also, it was just summer,
Yeah, I want to go lower, but I can't.
It's baseball season in Japan as well as it is in America. Yeah, so I mean, gotta be higher.
44. That's our number 2 right now.
Solid.
Everybody gets a point. We're all getting points.
That's like the one where you can actually apply. We have enough information to apply some sort of logic to it to at least have a not completely random guess.
So Pocket Harvest is back. If you remember, Pocket Harvest did remarkably poorly. So I'm going to say lower because 62 is its all-time.
If it's retained a third of that, it would have been doing very well.
What if it just came out like last week?
True. That would be
how he's booming us right now.
Could be true, but still, I've got it lower.
Lower.
It's 9. He is not booming us. All right. 3 more. Pocket Academy 3. That sounds boring as fuck. Lower.
It's the third one of these, but yeah, maybe so it's got the highest chance of being a recent title. I don't know. I'm going to go with higher.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Police Academy 3 once and it depressed me, so I'm going to go lower.
But you did see it.
I don't think I did, actually. I've seen the first one. I think I've seen some of the second one. I probably haven't seen the third one.
Guillaume's furious comeback. It is 55.
Oh, nice. Number 2, the new number 2.
Yeah. All right. This one I don't believe is this. All right, I'm on to you, GX. This isn't real. This game is called Convenience Store Ease.
That's
no
cute.
No.
Well, that's okay. So convenience store management is all the rage for some reason. I'm gonna go with higher.
Oh God, you're right. It is. Fuck.
Yeah, I'll go higher as well. Why not?
I'm gonna say lower. Oh, please. Holy God, it's 50 or 49. You did it. I lost my control of this segment. And then the last fuck this one. Cafeteria Nipponica. I can't. No, lower. It's got to be lower. Low.
I don't have a great feeling about this one. Lower.
Go low.
10.
There we go.
Fucking 10. All right. So in that segment, we all did much better. So I got 7 in that segment. I almost gave myself 8. Greg got, hold on. Greg also got 7. And Guillaume got 8.
Oh, he's the finger on the pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that puts us presently. Guillaume and Greg are tied at 14, and I am sitting back at 13. Like, really, really close.
Unassailable.
Still anyone's game.
Except there isn't, because there's only one question left.
It's unassailable lead.
So I can't win this outright. Which of these games is most popular both all-time and in the last 30 concurrent day players? High Seas Saga DX, Wild Park Manager.
I like to think that the manager is wild.
It's
just out there.
Or Game Dev Story. I'm gonna go first. I feel like Game Dev Story is a setup. Because I played that game and it's fucking shit.
And it's just like a name more people would recognize, right? So
I'm going to go High Seas Saga DX because that's an insane name.
I'm going to go with Game Dev Story because I remember a surprising number of podcasts talking about it when it came out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, and it's got to be both, right? It's got to be most recent as well as the, which, I mean, I get that's, the sort of, as the Apex one. So, I mean, that is probably the logical answer.
I feel like it was like one of the earliest games that they made too, so people wouldn't have gotten burned out on the formula yet.
Maybe.
They wouldn't know.
Maybe.
And yet it'd still carry torch for it is like it would still have more play. I mean, this is the key thing. Me and Guillaume are tied, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I've got to go the opposite to make it interesting.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Which one are you going with? You gonna go with Wild Park Manager?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna go with High Seas Saga DX, where I'm at?
I guess you've staked that out. So I guess I've got to go with the Wild Park Manager, which again I think which should be the park itself is entirely unremarkable, but the manager is he's just a crazy man.
It's just the Boosh segment where they were working in a zoo. All right, the answer is High Seas Saga DX.
Ooh.
It's nearly double Game Dev Story's all-time peak with 1,120 players and more than double its recent peak with 148 players. Wild Park Manager is their least popular game that we have data on. Its all-time peak is only 19 and their recent peak is 3.
All
right. So as a consequence of this...
3-way tie.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's a 3-way tie at 14. We did it.
It was, to be fair, one could say that this was very much predetermined. There was no other way it was going to go. But truly, with that result, I think we can emphatically say we accomplished nothing.
Well, I mean, the thing is, my operational thesis has been that every Kairosoft game is the same. We just all played the same game and ended up with the same score.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're the real winner, which is what you would say, isn't it?
I couldn't get Steam charts data on these, but I felt compelled to share them for their nonsensical names. Boxing Gym Story.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I guess club is not allowed there. Maybe they were worried that, all of a sudden
the other way.
Sylvester Stallone was going to get litigious, and it's like, that's an illusion. The Clubber Lang, how dare you? Even though, as we know from that arcade game you played a couple of weeks ago, back in the day, that wasn't happening.
I was thinking there was more concern that someone would show up with the shillelagh. No, the one that knocked me off my ass is Forest Golf Planner. That's not real.
Forest Golf. It's very miserable golf.
That's right. Just constantly hitting trees. Kairobotica, as in Kairosoft and Robotica, or Erotica. Maybe this is Kairosoft Erotica. Who can say? Shiny Ski Resort. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of ski resorts, but how many of them are shiny?
Not enough.
That's the kind of escapism we really need these days.
March to 1,000,000. Okay.
Well, it's going to take them a while on the evidence of this data.
This is somehow the most upsetting. The Pyroplex. PYRA-PLEX. What does that even mean?
It just sounds like some like Z tier wrestling move or something.
I was thinking it's the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 again.
I think it's just they finally let the AI make the game for them. They were like, okay, we've made enough training material for you, now, produce a game for us.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
just the result, like it can't produce really good writing, and so that's just a nonsense that came out.
It's like, what the all right, well, I guess that's what we're going with. Well, that we accomplished nothing, and I'd have it no other way. So, GX, thank you for sending us a game. We all managed to land on exactly 14 points. All right. Guillaume, would you read Lord Knott's email?
Sure. Lord Knott writes, Dear RFN crew, one of my favorite hobbies outside of gaming is following politics and getting angry. In American politics, recently an attempt was made to smear vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. Walz? I've actually never heard. What is it?
It's Walz.
Walz.
It's Walz.
So, vice presidential candidate Tim Walz for being so addicted to playing the Sega Dreamcast that his wife took it away from him. My question for you all is, if someone were to try to dig up dirt on your gaming habits and smear you as unfit for public office, what might they come up with? Perhaps it would be a controversial game that you own, a somewhat irresponsible gaming-related purchase that you've made, or a responsibility that you've put off or abandoned in favor of gaming. As a bonus, what would your campaign's rebuttal be to these attacks? Thanks for being all such fun guys, and keep doing what fun guy do.
Germinate?
Yes.
So this is going to be between 25 and like 23 years ago, because it's the Dreamcast.
Yeah, just we've the podcast will be pretty much going up right around the 999 date, won't it? I mean, although that was way after the Japanese launch, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I doubt this man imported a Japanese.
Oh, but I mean, you that is the kind of person that would be so enthusiastic that
That's
maybe
true.
his significant other would have to step in and say, no, no more fucking done Mako shooters for you, pal. It's gone too far.
Bangai-O, spirit this game out of my house.
Yeah, indeed, to Dreamcast Bangai. He was just, if he didn't play it for a while, he just started hallucinating. He was.
He just started making the noises for the levels with his own mouth. Right now, Bangai-O spirits this game out of my house as the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, well, that was the title of the DS game, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, you
know.
couldn't use the file transfer through sound files on the Dreamcast, I don't think.
No, you can't, but I guess I'll go. My sins are documented on this podcast. They're there. You could just go find I don't know what you think is my worst sin.
Yeah,
There's
just
a lot.
pick it. It's all there, is it? For all of us, it's been so many years, isn't it? It's all there.
Yeah, but I have certainly laid out a more shameful path than the two of you.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of like Japanese titles that would take some explaining,
Let me just go with the one that someone sees it and they're gonna have a panic attack. My campaign manager has become aware of the fact that yes, I did on the episode. I don't know, probably a lot of them, to be honest. Let's find out how many I talked about.
Well, this is something I was not around for myself, but I mean, everyone else was involved in the BMX Triple X scenario. So I mean, that's
true.
It's not great, Bob.
Wasn't our highlight. I will say, funnily enough, I actually can't find the episodes we talked about it on. I could find an episode where we named it after it, though. Oh, no, I can. I can find them. I talked about it on two episodes of Radio Free Nintendo. Conception to Children of the Seven Stars.
Yes.
Like, there's a bar here that I'm going to have to deal with. because this is a game where you, as a high school student, go meet other high school students and have instant children that you then throw into combat. In a ritual in-game called classmating. But here is my defense.
It was all built off that pun, wasn't it?
It was.
It was all built off that pun. Sometimes it is this, when the penny drops and you just think like this whole thing was built off this really, really simple pun. It's quite it's not quite the end of The Usual Suspects with the coffee mug shattering and all that, but it's like a miniature version of that. Like, but for me, I don't know exactly how long it took playing Xenoblade 2, but of course, like, you have the whole thing of the Gormotti, the cat people, right? They gave them Welsh accents, and it's like, okay, well, British accents in general. You've got Scottish ones, obviously, for more Ardain, and you kind of think, you're just using different British accents to distinguish the different kind of factions and the different titans. Right? Oh, fair enough. But then you realise it's like, oh, I know where this comes from now, because it's like you've got Nia, right? That's a name that, a lot of Welsh people have. But then Nia is the Japanese sort of way of like saying meow.
God damn it!
So that's where that thing comes from. Is basically just the main Gormotti character. It's like, oh well, like cat. She's a cat person, and the cat noise in Japanese is a Welsh name. So the Welsh, the cat people can be Welsh. So that's where it comes from. And it's just, God, why?
I was fine not knowing this. By the way, I was good, and now I know it. And I'm stuck here. So yeah, all right. So let me try to affect the defense here as best I can. One, it was a long time ago. This is I first talked about this on episode 424 back in 2015. This was a long time ago.
The young, misguided man, very different from the one that sits before us today.
An old, misguided man. Yes. All right. Number 2.
9 years of hosting this show have aged you very severely, I can tell.
Number 2. All right. So yes, it is a high school. You are producing these children with high school students, but you don't actually engage in anything sexual. They touch hands, and there's some suggestive silhouettes, but nothing beyond that. So it's not like a porn game. All right, there's my second defense. It's not strong, but I'm trying to build up something here. All right, so number 3, you're doing it to save the world. Like, that's important. Like, sometimes you got to put your ickiness aside to save the world, because you need your little children that you can then throw them onto the battlefield and have them fight monsters. That's important. It's an important role for your newborns to fill. Number 3, you're also a high schooler, so it's not like it's a Romeo Juliet thing. It's not like, well, actually that's a bad example because Juliet was like 18. I was like 13. So, no, you're roughly the same age. This isn't like some weird creepy thing where you're preying on small children. You do, however, have a relationship with your teacher. So I take that back. Sorry. Let's keep moving. We have to keep moving. Oh, here we go. I got it. This is an equal opportunity game for everybody, and it recognizes the validity of all relationships, because you can later in the game also produce children with your male classmate, the only other one, in a ritual called classmanting. Oh, that doesn't help me at all. Oh, it's gone wrong. Everything's gone wrong.
So your defense is that you are leaving the race, and but don't stop donating. We've still got to pay back all the loans and all that. So keep donating.
Yeah, my defense is the gameplay is actually pretty good. The story is not ideal. Oh, wait, actually, I've got it. The story's batshit insane. That's the real reason. At one point, you encounter one of your classmates who you have formed a romantic bond with. It comes out is actually a. Let me make sure I get through all of the things she is. Dead, zombified, but you can't tell. She seems perfectly normal.
Is this like Catwoman in Batman Returns? It's like, I mean, she's basically a zombie, but
a little bit. But after she died, she and her brother died and came back. Were hired by the church to be their secret assassins to kill the aliens or the monsters, whatever the thing is. Despite the fact that you yourself are in a military organization designed to do the same, the church felt like they needed to produce secret assassins to do that, and then embed them in the program that is a military organization that's already doing the thing that they felt they needed secret agents to do. It is not a strong plan. Also, the church is okay, and in fact approves of the class mating procedures, so it's definitely morally acceptable. I did it. I got it back around. I have to now go into like some of those like weird, icky, right-wing political organizations about how they feel about gender relations. But hey, I found an audience that will be receptive to this bullshit. I am saved, and I can return to my grifting campaign. Please donate to my current campaign. And also, I am selling survival food in a jar. It never goes bad. Never. Don't eat it until the end of the world, though. Don't do that. I did it. I saved it. I'm back around. And I'm going to retire comfortably off of my ill-gotten gains. Thank you, Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars. That's a phrase no one's ever said. I did it. Top that shit. Also, we talked about that show when Kim Keller was on. Or that game when Kim was on.
Yeah, I'm afraid I can't top that. Like, I definitely have drawn the line before the RPG where you impregnate your teammates or whatever.
So no one gets pregnant. I want to be clear. The baby literally materializes out of thin air.
Sure.
It's almost more fucked up that way.
Let me get this straight. Baby looked at you?
Yes, it did.
But I guess I don't know. I got rid of it a long time ago. But I guess at some point people could have uncovered that I owned both Field of Magic, XYXX, and the Rub Rabbits.
Oh man, that's rookie shit. I've got those on Pride of Display.
I know, but yeah. So Field of Magic. I'm looking at the Wikipedia now. I'm learning with the also known in Japan as Kimi no Tame Nara Shineru, which means I would die for you. But the Rub Rabbits, known in Japan as Akachan wa doko kara kuru no, which means where do babies come from?
Sure does.
Mm-hmm. Also, of course,
as you're reading it, I'm like, where do babies? Oh, hi.
So, and also, like, Field of Magic was called Project Rub in Europe.
Yes.
Which is also, none of these titles are great.
Europe, what did you do? Project Rub sounds like a campaign to get into serious trouble.
But
Project Rub sounds like what came out about your campaign, and now you're in trouble.
Oh, it's easy. You put project in front of anything, it just makes it sound more kind of ominous. It's not helping. It's not softening.
Mr. Governor, why is it that you have a journal that's labeled Project Rub? I have nothing to say at this time.
So of course, like, those titles were made by Sonic Team, and like, you have to play various mini games to, like, you're chasing the woman of your dreams, who's not exactly it's
you're
not
trying to
reciprocal.
impress her.
Yeah, and so, like, I don't remember which. I only remember one mini game where I think you're swiping.
There's one with bowls. I remember
scorpions off, like, a back or something. Or am I making that up?
Yeah,
anyway,
no, that sounds right.
It was on one of them, but yeah, like, a lot of the titles focus on the mini games focus on the touchscreen. Some of them focus on you use the mic, the mic. So yeah, it's one of those early DS titles that tried to really use those features. How do I defend myself from this? I feel like personally I would not pursue office. I would not. So that probably I would be the one to leak it to the media. Like, have you heard about Project Rub? You know.
I mean, honestly, that game reviewed pretty well, and it was an early DS game.
I was going to say, here's my defense. Have you seen the DS launch lineup, pal? Fucking hell.
It's easy to have misconceptions about what it's actually like and what it's actually about when you just look at the cover, for instance, of Field of Magic. So, it's more that, the problem, I guess, the perception.
Yeah, you got to work on set it. Like, no, it's just at one point you get fish out of a guy's stomach. It's just a minute. Why were there fish in his stomach, sir? I don't know. He ate them.
I don't recall the game enough to be able to answer that question.
He says he wasn't interested in running for office, and yet I heard those words I don't recall roll off that tongue beautifully well.
All right, Greg, what's saying? Are we going down?
I mean, there's a few different angles you could work it. There is another aspect to the question, though, about, like, shirking responsibilities or whatever, which, overall, is hard to defend. If you added up all the time you spent, doing that, playing games rather than writing some great novel or, doing charitable works or various other things. I mean, it's not easy to defend, admittedly. But if there was one particular sort of run where I was preparing for some exams and the way that I dealt with that, it's fairly important, the way that I dealt with that, it was by trying to single credit clear Sin and Punishment on hard. And I did well in the exams, and I beat Sin and Punishment on hard. So, I mean, results speak for themselves. That would be my defense in that scenario. It'd be like, well, have you done that? If not,
Greg just pulled out my biggest personal weakness is I care too much.
Yes,
in this,
exactly.
In this
well, you got to do that's what you got to do in the rough and tumble world, isn't it? Of this, but just say, look, if I've got one weakness, it's that I'm fucking awesome.
my lean into what's my biggest weakness is, well, I don't really like your face very much. Like, I feel like if I come at him with the honesty, I hit him with the right hook of honesty,
candor.
And maybe
it's just pure candor. It's just coming out. There's no lizard brain.
There's no artifice here.
No, definitely not.
And if I tell you did a good job, that means you must have done a fucking great job. Because right now, all I can think about is giving you the right hook of candor. And also the right hook of my fist. I just love the idea. Like, I wonder what John's pick would be here. It'd probably be some fucking PC game from 1854 that he played. It's like, well, in it, you execute the devil, and it's like, but it was a text command. It was just said /kill devil. I feel like I can't even make. All right, I just want to say it because he's not here and I'll never listen to this. John is the most frustrating comedy partner because there's nothing I can do to undercut him. It is so frustrating. I can't say anything where he just will. He's not going to tunnel under it. He'll get a fucking backhoe and make a path. It's like, oh God. So. Whatever I came up with here, John would have shown up and come up with something so much worse, and I'd have just been frustrated.
Well, I mean, the real truth of it is, isn't it? It's just that there'd be a USB stick with every episode of the podcast on it that just has a little label on it that says Oppo.
But somebody's gonna have to listen to thousands of hours.
Well, that's the defense, isn't it? It's just like, well, you listened to it, didn't you? Checkmate.
You made it to the end and no one will ever believe you.
It's like the beginning of season 2 of the X-Files when Mulder is made to listen, tapes, and like it's just the most boring shit that it's going to be this podcast. It's just out there, just in the basement, eating sunflower seeds and listening to us.
Listening to Feel the Magic,
listening to the saga of the Last Remnant and the Lost Xbox or whatever. It's like, God, they're still talking about this.
You say that, but the Xbox thing was a pivot in the story that had already gone for 3 fucking weeks.
it's a memorable tale. There's a reason why my brain went there.
Who could have thought this game would take 100-something fucking hours to clear because it had a mechanic where the better you played it, the harder it got. To the point where instructions are, try not to level up in the guide. Try not to gain experience. What a game. What a product. Maybe that's my sin. No, it's still Conception 2. Greg, can you read the last email?
Sure. So one writes, "What's up, my Indomitus RFN entertainers? So now that the NDS Castlevania games have been announced for Switch, I have some questions. Number one, where's Rondo Blood and Symphony of the Night? There's no excuse for not having them available now in either Switch or Steam. No logic as to why they're not available when all the other 2D games are."
All of them? No. Castlevania Rebirth? Anyone?
Yes, we talked about that as one that is not available, and we'd like to see it come back at some point. But I mean, we've
the 3DS one.
We've mentioned this, but it's like a size. It's got polygonal graphics and stereoscopic visuals. The Lords of Shadow mirror of Fate, sure. So it's blankety blank.
but it's not like Switch couldn't handle it.
But yeah, that got a HD version, I think, on my Xbox and PlayStation as well. So you could presumably it wouldn't be that difficult to bring over. But it just kind of seems like that the whole Lords of Shadow sort of sub series has been kind of after seemingly I've never played it, but the second one landed with such a horrible thud that they've got. Set that as to one side for the time being anyway.
Also, where's my Castlevania X that everyone certainly wants?
Oh yeah, well that's the one that's on.
Oh, that's on the Advanced Collection, isn't it?
Yeah, so they did do that at least. But yeah, obviously we've talked about this a lot. The thing that seems like odd to me is just the notion that we know that you've got the version that is in circulation currently for those games is something that Sony kind of led with, right? Because it's like, okay, well, there was the PSP version of like Symphony of the Night and Rondo with that went along with the remake of Rondo, the polygonal one for PSP. And it's just kind of, oh well, we could kind of bring that back, essentially, just like an emulated version of that and have that. And that's okay, that's what. But it just what's always seemed odd to me, and I know I've said it before, is just that seemingly would that carry with it as some sort of exclusivity clause that would extend this far into the future? Because wasn't that like 6 or 7 years ago at this point that came out?
I wouldn't think so.
It doesn't seem that logical, but that would be, and of course, at the moment, the most recent like Castlevania anime thing on Netflix is like Rondo era. It's Richter Belmont instead of like Trevor and stuff. So like it would make as much sense to kind of be able to bring back the Richter era games now while they're in the middle of that as any time. But it is really strange. And we still don't know if there actually is anything about that Sony, like that's some sort of exclusivity window that's going to expire anytime and then they could do so, or whether it's simply they, kind of maybe caught between a couple of different things for what to do with it for the night. Maybe they've been mulling options about doing some sort of more deluxe remake rather than just like, handing it off to M2 to do, a bang up job of presenting the game as it was originally. I don't know. It's always been strange to me, and it's only got stranger as time's gone on with all these games, that of in that genre, of the Symphony of the Night style. That are so popular on Switch, and there's so many of them that the kind of one of the big progenitors is still missing. And then with Rondo, just, it's a natural companion to that game because they do follow on, very directly in terms of the narrative in a way that most Castlevania games don't. So they seem like they belong together, but we're just not there.
Yeah, I why these games are missing, I think it really is just like they're maybe they're too big, or like maybe they're just not what. I mean, Rondo probably is from a file size one the biggest. Not Rondo. Shoot, like
Symphony.
It's suddenly Symphony. Yeah, Symphony is probably the biggest. It probably would require some amount of work.
Oh yeah, and
Rondo,
you'd want it done right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like that. The Sony collection again. I've not played it, so I don't want to overstate, how much I know about that. But that seems like that was just a relatively quick and easy, like straightforward thing that they could do to have those games out, and because of the fact that they'd already been on a Sony platform before as a collection together like that. Because again, like you had the polygonal remake of Rondo, but then you had the original games emulated, Symphony and the PC Engine Rondo just emulated as part of that collection. So it's like, okay, you just kind of bringing forward that same emulated version into the, PS4 era or whatever. So it's like that's pretty straightforward. It's not a lot of work, but you get to sell the games and keep them relevant. Like I get, if you're going to do what they've done with stuff like Advanced Collection, on the other hand, it's, like that seems like there's, significantly more work, in terms of, okay, again, like you're going to hire M2, they're going to do, a really good job of it, like that is, and have it so that it's available on all, Sony, Microsoft, Switch, PC. That's going to be, more costly, even if it isn't like doing a full remake or something. And like you said, with sort of like Symphony, technically, I mean, you've got the DS games get a little bit closer to Symphony in terms of like actually mixing, polygonal graphics with the 2D stuff. So like you've kind of reached a point with the games they're doing now where on in the Dominus collection where like I assume there's some similar complexity there, but yeah, in terms of like sheer file size, obviously, yeah, it would be the same because they had the Symphony was obviously a CD game and Rondo. I don't know how much they actually would have used the CD for Rondo.
Well, Rondo fit on WiiWare, so
yeah, it was a virtual console game. So, I mean, they were some of the bigger ones, obviously, and they would have had the benefit of like compression, at that point that they probably didn't have, back when they put Rondo out in the 90s, but still, like, yeah, I think it's just a case of, it could be done, but for it, maybe for them, the other way of looking at it, I guess, is like, at least with Symphony and Rondo, they are available to PS4 players, which, there are many, many PS4s out there. And it's not like it's really like an abandoned platform at this point because, the transition from PS4 to PS5 has been kind of gradual. It hasn't really been just like off a cliff or anything. There's a lot of people still playing PS4s and whatnot. A lot of games that still come out in PS4, especially in Japan, where, PS5s weren't available that much early on and are getting more and more expensive because the exchange rate and all that kind of stuff. So maybe they kind of think, well, that's there. That's I mean, it'd be nice for Nintendo players, other people to have access, but like that's there. And so we should do the ones that are not available at all first. And then you can circle back around to the ones to widen the availability of ones that are, only on the Sony platform.
I kind of want, like, I would like to see them do Rondo without doing Rondo, if that makes sense. Like, I like, part of the appeal to me of that game is the PC Engine-ness of it all. But I would want to play it in English. And I don't want a remake of it, because I think that game is deliciously PC Engine in every way and shape you can do it.
Oh yeah, I do. Like obviously there was a lot of this kind of discussion when that polygonal remake came out in 2007. I want to say something around there. Because obviously he tried to kind of harmonize it more with Symphony in terms of like some of the character design and stuff. So it was a bit less like, Richter just looks like, I mean, in the PC Engine version, he just kind of looks like Ryu, basically. Whereas, they kind of tried to harmonize it with the Symphony era designs, and it got a lot less, bright, colourful kind of look. And there were some things, I think, having played it, that definitely were improvements. Like, there's one level in the original version which is just kind of like, it feels unfinished. Like, it's cobbled together from visual elements of other levels and might not even have a boss. So, it's just kind of like, well, you clearly had the structure for this many levels, but one that you didn't actually finish. So you just kind of pasted together as much as you could to make it work, and it doesn't, it's not up to the standard of the others. And then in the remake, they've done it properly, right? Like it's just, they've taken what was there and made it more visually distinct and have a boss and all that. And there's an additional form to the final boss, which I think was actually quite needed. Because Rondos, pretty tricky game, but Dracula is not difficult and really quite underwhelming. So it did kind of need that. So, I mean, that remake brought some things to the table. So I guess you could say, I don't know, is there room for like a definitive version where you kind of bring everything back together and somehow incorporate the sort of additions of the polygonal game back into sprite art? And kind of put it in the other version. If any absolute madmen could pull that off, it would be M2. I would say that much.
That's fair.
Give them that challenge of just make, I mean, in many ways, it's far, far less daunting than make Haunted Castle good. So, I mean, why not give them that, incorporate, try and get a best of both. Rondo, which the original version is excellent. It definitely, I think, is a strong contender for the best of the classic Castlevania games and just one of the best of that general kind of side-scrolling action game from the 80s and 90s that anyone ever produced. But if you could really get all the good stuff from its incarnations together, you've got something really strong at that point.
Well, Juan has additional thoughts here. Greg, if you continue.
Sure, yeah. So, moving on from the particular issue of the Dracula X games, when are we going to get a collection of all the 3D Castlevania games, including N64 games and the Wii fighting game, Judgment, for the record? I can't understand why Lord of Shadow games are available on Steam, but not N64 and the Igarashi games. Even the 3DS game is missing. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I would assume with Lords of Shadow, just by virtue of when those games were made, it was not a particularly challenging thing to have them on Steam. Whereas those 3D games, I mean, I've never played the PS2 ones, so I don't know much about them.
I played just the beginning of, I think, both of them, and I just fell off because ultimately it wasn't giving me what I wanted, which was, kind of a Metroid Castlevania experience.
I just don't think any of them are particularly well regarded, or at a minimum are desired.
Yeah,
there's not an appetite for them.
Yeah, they came out and they couldn't do 3D platforming all that well. They couldn't do the Metroidvania thing as well as Symphony of the Moon did, and they couldn't do the combat as well as games such as God of War did, which was, contemporaneous with those releases. So ultimately, they were kind of masters of nothing, So yeah, I would take, I guess, a collection of them, but maybe since they get down to $5 eventually, I wouldn't be no, keep that away from the complete 3DS, 3D Castlevania collection, but I wouldn't be particularly excited.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of these things. As you said, James, when you look at sort of the kind of affection and therefore, the kind of foundation that gives you for, will people buy this thing? Do you have some sort of dependable constituency, to sort of sell to, that then maybe you can broaden out from that with sales and marketing and everything else. They're on less solid ground with those 3D games, it seems, because there's just, were not as warmly received, or they didn't sell as well. So you kind of feel like if they were to do them, it may well be at such a time where they've done the other things, especially those, Rondo and Symphony seeming like things that, would perhaps, be prioritized before you started collecting together those 3D games. Certainly, Yeah, it would be. I would have some interest in play. I did have the original version of Castlevania for N64, but not the kind of we more finished it version that Legacy of Darkness is. So right. I've always been. I mean, I've read about it. I've seen videos, so I've got a pretty decent idea. But if they just put those on NSO, which I mean might be again a bit like what we talked about with Dracula X and for Super Nintendo, maybe that would have been better suited to NSO or like Castlevania Legends, which they did actually just put as a Game Boy game on the Switch Online. Maybe that is a possibility if they don't feel like an actual collection is something that they would be able to rely on. And then, with the Igarashi 3D games, you just kind of, again, I haven't played them, so there's some interest there, but it doesn't feel like they captured the kind of affection of the fan base at that time, because it was kind of around about the same time that the 2D games were coming out on GBA and DS, and it just kind of felt like they were always the ones that commanded the attention and affection of the fan base more. But I'm sure, there are people that played those and had some, kind of affection for them. So I don't wish to dismiss that. You just kind of feel like maybe it's not as kind of solid ground to green light, a collection project, which again, if you're going to do it right, it won't be insignificant in terms of, development and everything else. Again, and I would have thought anything about Lords of Shadow feels like it's be the furthest away from coming back because some of the games are still available through, different, means, like the Xbox, back compat and stuff, right? And it just, it kind of felt like that ran its course. And even though, I played the first game, kind of had its merits, and, had some decent reviews and all that, maybe it'd have to be a bit longer. It has been quite a long time, obviously. It was over a decade comfortably at this point, but still, a bit longer on that one. And just after some of these other things that they've got to kind of get around to, with the franchise. But the last part of Juan's question, I think, is perhaps the most interesting, which is what other DS games would you like to see on Switch? I'd personally like to see a Professor Layton collection.
Yeah. I mean, that was my race to get out first, because that's the one that, even if it's so, I would say is it 3? It's 3, right? It's the first trilogy and the second trilogy. The first trilogy, the older Luke trilogy.
Yeah.
And then you can leave Spectre, whatever it's called in your region.
Yeah.
Out, because that really goes with the 2 3DS games. It just happens to be that it's on the DS. It's fucking nuts that we don't have these games on Switch.
Well, what's really, surprising to me is the notion that, they, Level 5 have been for quite a while teasing the Layton comeback, right? The New World of Steam or whatever it is. I forget the precise name that the new Layton game is going to have. But, they've been teasing that for quite a while with, just like little snippets in a, teaser video. You would think bringing some of these games back into circulation while this, sort of period of time is playing out would be wise, because they've been missing, it's just, the fifth of the kind of 6 games, that we think about with the Layton series was a 3DS launch game. Miracle Mask. That's how the second to last one is as old as the 3DS launch. Think about how long ago that feels like now. And then the Azran Legacy was the last of the 6, and it wasn't too much longer after that. So it's got to be
a couple of years,
more than a decade ago now,
and then
about a decade ago.
And then there's the big jump, and then it's the Layton's daughter that sucks and is awful.
Yeah, and I think it's because with the different characters, the Catriel and all that, like, it always just felt like a spin-off. And then it's so much more so when you're trying to say, okay, with Layton is coming back for real, like it's a mainline game, you're going to try and live up to those games. They need to be around, right? Like, just And again, I mean, if you go all the way back, especially to that first set. With Curious Village and Diabolical Box / Pandora's Box and Lost Future / Unwound Future. Again, I mean, in Japan, because they took quite a while, then they'd come over. In Japan, you've got going back even further. But even like with the Western release dates, you were talking about the Curious Village was 2007, I want to say, around there. So
something like that, yeah.
Maybe 2008, I forget. But I mean, you've got to do something to this series has a history. It's got a reputation, and you can leverage those things, but you've got to come forward with some sort of product. And I mean, it's begging for it. So I think that's like the absolute slam dunk for this question, because there's a lot of games from that generation we can look back on now and say those are cool games that have been absent because of, some of the things that we talk about with, the Dominus collection for the Castlevania games, like how do you handle the two screens? How do you handle any touch stuff and all that? Like, it takes adapting. It's not as simple as just dump some things with some, basic emulation or whatever. But, for all those games, many of those are not necessarily going to be, having the sort of, added incentive of let's build up something ahead of a comeback, a revival with a new game. So it's far and away the choice.
So the just as a heads up, the level 5 vision for this year is in September 24th. So there might actually be something on this front soon. The slogan for this year is apparently "To the World's Children," and it's a nightmarish smiling face. So, again, level 5 has no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Just sounds like something like a Bond villain would have as their corporate slogan or something.
To the world's children. All right, Guillaume, so Greg and I landed on the same one. What's your answer?
I don't... Okay, so most of the series that I used to play on the DS are already kind of ported to the Switch. So my facetious answer would be Chrono Trigger DS. Why not bring that to the Switch? Like any version of Chrono Trigger, God damn it.
It was kind of nice having the you're getting all that menu stuff off the screen, off the playfield, essentially. So it's a good version of that game.
It is. It's just, it would be funny if that were the version that made it to the Switch at last. Other than that, like, I played, like Ghost Trick and Phoenix Wright, all that, came out on the Switch, Professor Layton, the Castlevania games, like, that's really the big stuff. I would have to go into smaller titles, and yeah, I guess like DSiWare is where I would land at this point, because I'm seeing, like, I'm looking at an old kind of list of games that I used to like like on a website, like I used to have my collection. So I just took a look at it, and the art style games. That would be nice to have back. Nintendo doesn't really do compilations of their old the old smaller games that they published. Of course, a lot of these art style games were made by Skip, I believe.
Yeah,
but they were fun little distractions. There were fun little, like, often puzzle games, art style Box Life, where you had to cut up dice, basically, or boxes out of, like, these shapes, these tiles. You had Digidrive, which is probably my favorite one, and that one I believe was made by Who made Star Fox? What's
Q, right?
Yeah.
I think it's what do they? I'm trying. It's Q Games, I think, rather, because there's Q Games, there's Q Entertainment, but I think Q Games is Dylan Cuthbert's company, who was with Argonaut and worked on Star Fox and all that, and then eventually set up his own company, which went on to co-develop with Star Fox Command, Star Fox 64 3D, but then also did a number of downloadable games like the X Returns, the version, the sort of DSiWare take on the X game that was a Japan exclusive Game Boy game, where again an early kind of thing that Argonaut used to kind of impress Nintendo, and it ultimately got them to kind of bring them on board. Was like, look, we can do like 3D geometry calculation on the Game Boy, and Nintendo were just like, how? How are you doing this? We must bring you on board. And that, I do hope X shows up on NSO. Like,
that would be good.
At least for people, to bother to, set up a Japanese account at the very least. Because I don't think it ever came to the Japanese Virtual Console, which is kind of curious. I mean, they did DigiDrive, which was a GBA sort of Bit Generations game before it was DSiWare. And that's another avenue for those games. They could put... They virtually all had no text, right? Because that was the whole point of them, is that they were just like, super stripped back, old school. They could almost be like pre-NES video games like that, even though they'd have a bit more modern, kind of sound design and this, that, and the other. But, they were super stripped back games. So it's like they could all be on the expansion pack as GBA games. But some of them came back as DSiWare, like DigiDrive. But then you also had a lot that were just entirely new for DSi as well. And then WiiWare also, which was a mix of, some were the GBA games like,
Orbital.
Like they had was it, I think, Orbital, the GBA game became Orient. For Orient, for WiiWare, but then they had other ones that were new for WiiWare as well. And again, I mean, goodness knows what the odds are of those coming back. But anything of those sort of small, maybe collecting together some smaller games and stuff would be cool. But like I said, I mean, who knows if the if the Wii U had been a thing that was like successful and had a long life, like maybe they could have got to that point of having DSiWare games as virtual console games. But we never got within a country mile of that happening in reality.
No. And I guess like the multiple developers would make such a collection kind of improbable. But anyway, other than that, like the big series that I played on DS was Dragon Quest, 4, 5, 6. And that's, I probably wouldn't want a collection of those versions of those games on the Switch. I'd probably just want them to, once they're done with Dragon Quest 3 HD and 1 and 2, just keep going, 4 onward.
No, but you would imagine there'd be money in it, although again, because they're giving it the kind of royal treatment, it's no quick thing, to put those games out. And I would imagine it'd be similar for, doing the kind of, the later games in the series. But I mean, with DS, there was eventually, it started as a bit slim pickings, but eventually, there came to be so many games that, there are a lot of options. Certainly, I really liked, Meteos. That was really sort of fun. But, that's one of the ones that really is trickier to imagine because, again, with that situation, the touchscreen was so central to it. Any kind of substitute for the touchscreen there. I talked about this with the Castlevania DS game, it's not really asking you to do anything that frantic or, Meteos could get really frantic, right? That was kind of part of the game really, was just like, okay, well, it's all going to shit. Start scribbling. Just hope that you fluke a match because
fuck that screen up. It's time to go.
Otherwise, it's game over. So you just got to scramble. You just got to panic and hope you get lucky. that became, I mean, obviously, if he was actually a good player, I guess maybe that was never a part of the game for you, but generally speaking, that was a part of the game. And, that would be very difficult to imagine people being very happy being asked to do on Switch, and then, you've got some other things like, Oendan or Elite Beat Agents. Really like that, but like the whole scribble to do like certain like drum rolly type things, like you generally be tapping at particular points in sort of patterns in time
or dragging.
But there was those things where it's like quickly, draw a circle really fast, which I mean that was just really quite
wrecked. It wrecked a lot of screens.
Exactly. It was irresponsible, frankly. Not just to implement it that way. And basically, like the sort of, I mean, it's better because it's a screen, but it is very much in the same spirit of ask kids to ruin their hands to play Mario Party. I mean,
they sure did, and I sure did.
But I mean, those were really fun games. I played Oendan 2 and Elite Beat Ages. I do really like them. But that's the thing. When they're really, and Meteos, again, to go back to that, but when they're so kind of like that, like core, like DS games, like it really is difficult to kind of separate them from that original hardware and the platform. I think it's, you're asking a lot. At that point, probably, it just doesn't seem that likely that they would come back unless, they come up with a whole, something similar to an NSO, that they've had for Game Boy Advance and so forth and Game Boy, where it's like, okay, here's just like a whole app that's completely built around solving these problems for like the dual screen, the games that really relied on the dual screen, really relied on touch inputs. And, we've kind of solved it for the whole kind of platform. So now we can license these things in and bundle them together. Maybe that works, but I don't know whether collections, for some of these things would work as well. So what that brings you back to is the stuff that is more kind of orthodox. And, I mean, while I think the dual screens were like really sort of perfect and being able to touch around to investigate things was perfect for Layton. You can adapt it. We've seen that. We've had some games lately, haven't we? We've had 3DS games. 3DS. Well, some of them are, but we've had.
Well, the 3DS game was completely. You could play it completely without touch.
Yeah, that's true. Because they had to put the stuff on the fact that you wanted to show off the 3D visuals, like they had to put that as the one screen, so it kind of changed how it worked a bit. But the point is, I mean, recently we've seen some, a little spike of DS games actually coming to Switch because we've had the Etrian collection, for instance, which was another one that was talked about. Again, it's, that dual screen form factor really served the series well all the way through to the very end of the 3DS's life and stuff. But, again, you can do it. You had like I mentioned before, ZX and, Advent, for Mega Man in the Zero collection has been done, and Ghost Trick, of course. I mean, that would have been like such a big answer, wouldn't it? Like, oh yeah, you got to get Ghost Trick back. But
well, I mean, we're getting Ace Attorney Investigations next week.
The one that wasn't even localized before, and it's getting bundled with another game. I mean, Capcom are really on top of it, to be fair. I mean, you got to give them credit.
Yeah.
If they come out with, was it Okami Den or whatever, like they're just gluttons for punishment.
They're just flexing at that point.
But that again seems a bit, because that was very kind of touch driven, trying because this natural enough notion of like, all that brush stroke stuff, that you do with analog sticks on PS2. Why couldn't you do that in a sort of spin-off on the touchscreen for the DS? But that really would be them kind of showing everybody else up, to be honest, in terms of bringing the DS stuff back.
Yeah. All right. Well, for email, that is going to do it. You could send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. I don't know that I gave the email address at the start of the show. I think I was so thrown off by the Iron Man's disappearance that I just
adrift.
I just forgot. What a calamity by me. That's RFN at NintendoWorldReport.com. That's where you send your emails to us. Questions, comments, games like GX. GX sent a game. Why haven't you sent a game? Do you think GX is better than you? If you don't, you should send us a game. But he did actually put a lot of effort into that spreadsheet. So like I'm now expecting a minimum level of effort where I can play the game because the answers are hidden from me. So get on it. Again, one last time, RFN at NintendoWorldReport.com. It's a website. That's the email address part of the website, not the website itself. All right. Well, then I think we are going to wrap the show up a little early this week. And, I mean, it's late for us because we started super late. So, yeah.
Because we're
John,
worried.
We were worried about John because I won't have anyone to make fun of if he's not here. So I was really worried he wasn't going to make it. And he didn't. But I still made fun of him, so it's fine. So, email. I already told you what the email address is. Retroactive. We're going to do one of these sooner rather than later.
Hey, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the DS, but I mean,
yeah,
if it had a better launch lineup, it would be.
Yeah, I guess we're doing Feel the Magic, boys.
Let's all find a copy of Pack Picks somewhere.
Oh my god!
There's not a day I don't regret getting rid of mine.
So it'd have to be very much. Well, we're doing this because of the 20th anniversary of the launch lineup. However, the nominees will not feature anything from the launch lineup.
That's right. I'm going to go play. We're doing a retroactive on the demo of Metroid Prime Hunters.
Yes.
All right. Well, that means it's music time. We love music here on this show. So we're going to ask Greg. Greg, what's our music this week?
Well, a few days after this episode goes up, the release will be on the 12th, I believe. You've got the new Capcom collection again, just setting the world on fire with collections lately, with the Marvel fighting games. But there's one game in there that isn't a fighting game that we've kind of touched on in the past, and that is the Punisher Brawler that started it all. This is the game that actually was the beginning of the sort of collaboration with Capcom licensing Marvel characters, and then after that you had X-Men: Children of the Atom, which really got the ball rolling because it led to Marvel superheroes, and then X-Men versus Street Fighter, and then Marvel versus Capcom, and there it is. But it all started with the Punisher, and I did mention this, I think, before when they announced the collection, but Punisher's kind of notable to me because the soundtrack is by Yoko Shimomura, who, of course, was working with Capcom around this time, not long after having done the completely classic, memorable Street Fighter 2 music. You then move on to this Brawler, which what I really find interesting about this, given, again, the sort of proximity to stuff like Street Fighter 2 and given the kind of subject matter of it, is just how much of like Shimomura's later sound you can hear in it. It's quite surprising. Like, just like things that you would recognize from RPGs and even games like the Mario and Luigi games, Kingdom Hearts, maybe not, the really whimsical end of those stuff, but, kind of battle themes and more kind of dramatic things. You could very much hear it here. And so this particular track, I think, kind of exemplifies that, which I believe it's got a fabulous name that I've, at least, where I've been able to find kind of identifiers for the particular tracks, which is Revenger, Theme of Revenge. So, I mean, you're getting in there twice. And, I mean, I guess, you got to say, give Konami props for going all the way to Revengeance, all those years later for Metal Gear Rising. But Capcom were coming pretty damn close all these years ago. But, again, you're going to hear it now. Just totally a Shimomura track, like just with the instrumentation that the Capcom arcade hardware kind of afforded.
Oh my god!
In the early 90s, around about 92, I think this was. But like when the piano comes in, it's like I could totally imagine this being during like a late game boss battle in Mario and Luigi or something. Trust me.
The funny thing is, we've used Shimomura so many times, I know her URL to VGMDB. It's 139. Like, I don't have to, like, I usually have to look them. I don't have to look hers up. It's 139. I just know it cold. All right. Well, on that, it is time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.